frustrating, and I
Nothing is forever,
so
Chris.
Talk to me, Chris.
I've
Talk
got
to me.
okay. Well, it started as just a bit of a nuisance, and now it's developed into a show blocker, and so it's now it's got me upset. At first, I was okay with it. I have a couple of plasma systems where every now and then my panel freezes. So my task manager doesn't update, like whatever applications that were open at the time it froze, they just remain in there. But you can actually click them and it'll raise other windows that have opened and closed in that meantime. The clock stops, the ticker stops updating the Bitcoin price. The Dropbox icon's still alive, but everything else is just sort of dead. And that's...
What did you do?
Well, that just started happening about a month ago. And producer Michael stopped by and he said, "Oh, yeah, that's an NVIDIA bug." And I was like, "Oh, it's an NVIDIA bug. Oh, okay." So then I went and did some, everything. "Oh, yeah, it's an NVIDIA bug. It's an NVIDIA bug." "Oh, okay. Well, I guess it is only happening on my two systems that have NVIDIA," I thought to myself. Okay, so that's fine. I'm okay with that because I came up with, I kind of pulled one of your maneuvers, is I wrote myself a script that I put in like a bin directory in my home directory, which is like a Plasma desktop service script, which stops the Plasma desktop and restarts the Plasma desktop session without logging me out. And that generally fixed the issue. But it's sort of clunky and it's not easy to do while I'm live. And so I heard that an update came out that fixes this Plasma panel lockup issue. And so I installed it today before the show. And sure enough, my panel is working and it's up to date. But I have lost my desktop, I have lost my background, and I've lost the ability to add widgets, and I've lost all of the widgets that were on my desktop, which normally would not be a large issue, except for specifically the end of the show, like the concluding piece of the show, was going to be a demo of Vault, which is a Plasma widget, which I can no longer access, show, or use. So not only is it kind of a shit thing to recommend it, since if I had something really important in Vault, I couldn't use it right now, but I can't even demo it, which is I had spent time going through it, setting up a Vault so I could demo it. I researched the different type of encryption options. Like, it's just sort of, one of those things where it's like, well, I didn't expect not to have access to my Plasma widgets. I thought I'd be able to add a Plasma widget. And I'm just sort of, I'm feeling like, I've done Linux podcasts for 11, 12 years. I have been using the Linux desktop for longer than that. I have been using Linux far longer than I think I used Windows. I'm not sure, but I think so. And I think it's got to be a lot longer. And I'm at a point now where I don't know what I'm going to do because Unity 7 didn't work out for me. GNOME 3 didn't work out for me. And now the Plasma desktop's not working out for me. And I know Joe could pop in here in a hot second and say, "Hey, try out XFCE." But the reality is, if I have to use a 2-bit chicken shit 1990s desktop environment, I don't really have any interest in using Linux.
It's weird. I don't understand. I mean, I realize everyone's different, and we're all special snowflakes in this world, and we all love our own unique environments. But I don't understand how. Like, I could get on with GNOME Shell for a bit, and I got a bit frustrated, and the crashiness annoyed me, and I switched away, and I switched back to Unity that I knew and loved for 8 years or more. And whenever I spin up a VM of Elementary, it's pretty and it works exactly as I'd expected. And whenever I spin up KDE Plasma, it works the way I'd expected, and it's lovely. And whenever I spin up SUSE, I have to fix it because it's broken.
Sure.
But like in general,
right.
most distros work, most desktops work.
My experience,
I don't understand this break.
I'll challenge you on that a bit. So here is the difference between you and I believe, is I have this thing on like 6 systems, and I think you have it on your laptop. And I have this on the system that I'm using to do my actual work, like my primary production system, because I have found, and I think I mentioned this earlier, I have found the only way these things really break is when I'm really pushing them, using them. They run 24/7, like a real professional operating system should work. Like Mac OS, and sitting now, I have replaced a system with Windows fucking 7, which works better. And that's where I'm at right now. And it's slow and it's ugly, but it is reliable and predictable.
I also am a use it all day, every day, 24/7.
But for that system, though, I know, but don't you use Unity for that? I mean, that's a...
I have 2 machines. Like, the one I'm sat at right now is Unity, and it's on all day, every day. And the KDE one is a laptop, but I never turn it off. I only ever suspend it and wake it up again and suspend
Is it
it and wake it up
Intel?
again.
Because everybody tells me this is an NVIDIA issue, which I think is a bullshit answer. I'm sick of being told it's NVIDIA.
Actually,
I know.
NVIDIA 390 driver is a pile of shit.
But I understand that, and I do totally appreciate the politics at play as well. Like, I understand it's technical and political. Those are not issues that I feel like I would be exposed to as a Windows or Mac OS user, though. Right? They're just like, and as somebody who just has a job to get done, I don't really care.
Have you not seen the flack that
that's
Apple
true.
are getting
That's
for
true.
macOS right
but you
now?
know, at least I would have desktop. I would have the ability to get to an encrypted volume. You know, like now I've lost the ability to get to these vaults that I've created.
Right.
It's just
Mac OS might just leak that password and logs unencrypted for you.
It's just so dumb. It's just so stupid. Like, I feel like there's just these stupid problems all the time.
And it's weird. You go in, like, I don't know whether it's the seasons or what.
I know.
You seem to go in cycles of, you know, everything's happy clappy.
Well, what it is
everything
it's what you were just describing. Is I switch to it, and when you initially deploy it, it works good. It works, and it's great. And then you get 3 to 4 to 5 months down the road with it, and the shit just starts to fall apart, I think.
Dude, I've got exactly the same duration KDE install you have.
I know.
I installed it like the same day. And
I'm only having this problem on 2 of the 6 systems. I'm only having the problem on 2 of the 6 systems.
To be fair, I only have it on 1.
But it's my main desktop upstairs, and it's the main machine that I have connected to the live stream.
Also, you install all kinds of wacky shit in order to demo it on the show.
From time to
I
time.
don't tend
Well, you
to
do a bunch of snaps, but I guess they're all safe.
But that's the thing.
Yeah.
I've got the same 6 applications on there that I had.
Yeah, and everything else is snaps.
2 months ago. Right.
That's the way to do it. See, my problem is like, so what got me today, and what's just sort of like the go figure why it's just like extra salt in the wound is what got me today was I wanted to fix my panel. So I installed the updates, and I got a fixed panel, but I got a completely broken desktop, and I lost the ability to add widgets. So it's like I fixed one thing, but totally regressed in a new area. And it's like if I'd known ahead of time what was going to happen, I just would have opted to have a frozen panel. Like that would have been better, because then I could have demoed the software today.
When I first switched and we discovered a couple of bugs 2 months ago, well 3 months ago probably now, however long ago it was that I flew back from your neck of the woods, I filed a couple of bugs on the KDE bug tracker, and nice. I had lovely responses from Jonathan Riddell telling me the most beautiful developers were on the case and that it would all be fixed. And I understand those bugs are now in progress or fixed, right? Oh. So, like, rather than pissing into the wind, you need to actually go and tell the developers that the shit's broken, yo.
Yeah, I started a I know. And now keep in mind, too, this literally just happened to me 10 minutes ago.
I know, I sound like a broken record, and I always tell people, you have to file a bug. So you have to tell the developer, because they're not listening right now.
I have had a conversation about the panel, and I am getting, and this is why I was kind of going on about the NVIDIA thing, is what I'm getting a lot of, well, it's an NVIDIA thing, and the conversation's stopping there. And that is frustrating, and I understand there's valid points.
You file a bug and you use the NVIDIA bug reporting tool and you tell NVIDIA. They do listen.
The thing here is that amount of effort is about the same amount of effort as just a nuke and pave my machine, which is really what I'm more likely to do because I got another show to record tomorrow and it's a big show. You know what I mean?
Like, contributes straight to the source and one doesn't.
Do you only drive the same car every day because it's more effort to go to the garage and buy a new car when it breaks down?
And I think it's more of a money. I would totally love a new car every day. No, really though. So, because you're right, I could start a dialogue with NVIDIA. I perhaps could start, especially me, like more than a typical end user. I may be in a better position than others to start a dialogue with NVIDIA and somebody on the Plasma team to resolve this issue. And perhaps within 3 or 4 months, the issue could be resolved upstream. And I would be willing to bet that the Neon project would have that packaged up and shipped downstream pretty quickly, all things considered, big picture. It's just that the fundamental issue there is that as a business person,
you need it fixed now.
It's just not how I'm going to spend my time. It's just not even. Right. It's not even a possibility. You know what I mean? Like, I hate to put it that way, but it's just not even. That's not even on the list of things that are possibly going to happen, because
Which part? The bit that you're waiting or the bit you're reporting?
all of it, none of it, because
Well, you're a bad open source community member.
There's a
dude.
difference. There's a
If you're
difference.
not even gonna contribute the report that the thing's busted. I had no idea you were having this problem. I had no idea that KDE was busted in this magical way. Partly because I don't run NVIDIA on that laptop, but I just didn't know until I spoke to you.
Here's what I think, and I think this is probably the majority. Is if this was my computer at home when I'm fucking about with nothing better to do than watch TV, I'd rather spend an evening doing that than watching TV. But when I'm working 65 hours a week, it's just not on the. I'm not going to add another 2 hours to that. I'm not going to work a 68-hour week, 67-hour week for this. It's not going to happen.
Then you completely lose the right to complain.
No, I disagree. I think I just could only take it so far. Like at a certain point, I just need to move on, and so that's where. So I think it's still valid to complain, and it's definitely valid to let people know that these are problems that they might run into because NVIDIA cards are popular and things like that. Like I still think that is within itself valuable, but I think I can only sit around for so long and bitch before I just got to shit and get off the pot and move on, or start the process you're talking about. So I think that's where I see it differently.
Right. So I see it differently because I see the developers. I talk to them every day of various parts of the project, and they get frustrated because they just don't have anything to work with. All they hear is an audio stream of someone ranting that something's busted. They have no idea what GPU is in your machine, what processes are running, what the debug output is, the trace files, or any of that stuff. So they can't fix it. You're not enabling the developer to fix the problem. You're just ranting and like shouting. It's like standing on the cliffs and shouting into the sea. Nobody can hear you and nobody cares.
I think it depends on who the audience is. So my audience isn't the 3 developers that might fix that bug. My audience is the tens of thousands of users who might potentially want to try that desktop environment.
Right, so you've got responsibility in your hands. You're telling your listeners that this shit's broken and you should probably avoid it. And that's a level of responsibility that a lot of normal people don't have.
I agree, and I haven't done that yet because this isn't in the show. But I would say that I think that the line to walk here is, heads up, this is a problem, especially coming from somebody who just spent a couple of months saying there's no problem, this is the best desktop environment I've ever had.
Right.
It's now on me to say, oh shit, guess what? It's not all cake and lollipops. I've hit a problem. You need to know about this. Like that's on me to let the audience know, because otherwise it comes across as nothing but the positive stuff, and that doesn't serve anybody. But there is a line to walk between like really shitting on people that it's just totally counterproductive to people who contribute their free time and their passion to open source development. So I agree, it's a line for sure.
But 2 years ago, is it really that long? 1604 came out and there was a wireless problem, and we had devil's own work to get people to file bugs, because people would just go, oh, wireless doesn't work. And we're like, okay, tell us what wireless chip you got. Tell us what environment you're in. Tell us what type of access point
people are too angry at that
protocols. Point. And people were like, no. But they would keep telling us that it's busted. And it's like, for fuck's sake, you've got to help us fix this thing, because we can't fix it if we don't know. Because there are a bazillion different wireless chipsets. Yeah, okay, there's a dozen common ones. But there's also all the different environmental factors. And did you just suspend, or did you just turn the thing on? There's all this information that we just can't get from someone shouting into the wind. It's incredibly frustrating.
Yeah, I know. And I think there's 2 headwinds. The first one is sort of a minor one, but I think a lot of people come into Linux and they think they've been told this story about how it's so much more stable than Linux, or than Windows. Yeah. And so they come in with this, and then they come in with maybe that expectation. But number 2, I think people get so angry that they're no longer willing to be a participant in the process. They've been offended in some way, like you've aggrieved them in some way. How dare the Wi-Fi not work?
I think I definitely have to agree with Alan here super hard, and especially if you're gonna get mad at somebody and tell people to avoid it, it shouldn't be KDE or Plasma or any of these guys. It should be NVIDIA, and it should be AMD.
It's another.
Don't ever use those cards because they suck on every desktop.
I think it's
no matter
more
what desktop I have, it always breaks. That's NVIDIA's fault.
I don't like the characterization either way of avoiding anything. I don't think that's how I'd characterize it at all. I think it's more like if you want to get an NVIDIA card, there are still some downsides as a Linux user. And
I think if you want to get an NVIDIA card, you better stick to Windows because it just doesn't work very well.
Yeah.
I honestly don't run anything but Intel. Yeah. And that sometimes doesn't work.
So
Windows isn't a panacea either. I heard.
True. That's true.
My son was playing Rust, and I heard him chatting to people, and the other guy at the other end said, "Oh, I've got to restart my computer." And my son actually said to him over the stream, bearing in mind my son is 11 years old and doesn't use Linux, he uses Windows. He said, "Oh, did Pulse Audio break or something?" He's just like randomly plucking stuff that he's overheard me say. But like, Windows is not like that 390 NVIDIA driver is a shit show for everyone. It's not just Linux. There are people on Windows who've told me this is awful, and we're moving to whatever the next beta driver is, or rolling back to the previous driver. It is a genuine problem. So you could level all your complaints at them and say it's not fair because the open source community should have built something better by now. But unfortunately, it is the terrible show that it is. So
this is it's like degrees of awful, really, and what degree do you want to put up with? So going back to where I was going with this, I wouldn't come on here and say avoid Plasma, because I like I said, it's only 2 out of 6 systems are having the issue, and I wouldn't come on here and say avoid NVIDIA either, because I've got NVIDIA cards in the 3 systems I'm sitting in front of right now. And I got them for specific reasons. So it's like, what level of pain in the ass are you willing to put up with? And you have to understand it's like a really complicated question on the Linux desktop. So now I understand, like, okay, well, are you going to be using the Plasma desktop with that NVIDIA card? And are you going to be using this specific NVIDIA driver? Well, then you're going to have these kinds of problems. So the way I look at it as somebody who's talking to an audience, it's more like informed decision-making and giving them sort of like the experiences I've gone through. So what starts out as, and I think you'll probably notice if you look at the more recent shows, what starts out as sort of like a pre-show, like, holy shit, this thing is so busted. I can't believe this amateur code thing is actually shipping, usually translates into by the way, if you're doing this, you're going to have this problem because, man, did I have that. And that, I think, is something that the audience, it's more like an experience that the audience can learn from, and then they can make their own decisions. I'm not saying avoid Plasma. I won't do that until I just declare Linux is bankrupt and I'm switching to Windows 98. That's when I think
NetBSD.
Like when I go that route, then I think it's crazy. But going back to Popey's argument about filing a bug, this is not one I think. And I don't know, maybe it's my bias. I've been around for a while. This is not one I think is worth my time. Because it's
yeah, that's what I heard for 6 months from the people complaining about wireless on
I disagree with that. I didn't actually have that problem, but that would have been one that would have been.
But that's exactly the problem. Like, not everyone had this problem. There were people like very close to you ranting about how wireless on 1604 was completely busted and everyone should avoid it on 1604. It turns out, no, it's not busted for everyone. It's not busted for anyone in Canonical. It's only busted for certain select people with certain chipsets in certain environments.
What's crazy is he's on a ThinkPad.
Wouldn't tell us. Those fuckers wouldn't tell us what the details of that system was. Yeah. If you don't tell us, we can't fucking fix it.
I think this is a real problem. I think the core problem that issue, the thing is I'm not going to spend my time. I'm not going to, like I said, if I'm working 65 hours this week, I'm not going to work 67 hours so that way I can report a bug and then watch them tell me it's an NVIDIA problem. I'm not going to do it.
But doesn't Canonical maintain a list of certified hardware?
We do, yeah.
So if you're buying outside of that list, but you don't want to spend time there to report the issues, like that's kind of seems like.
Also, it's a bit cheeky to say that you're not willing to put in the extra hours when all these people who are working their day job and then in their spare time, in their evenings, are working on open source projects.
I agree. I'm just telling you, I think that's what's happening. I think that's it, and I think it's just human nature. People they're at their wits' end with so many things, especially in the U.S. that I think that's the issue. Is people are out of bandwidth. I agree.
Certified hardware, then.
What's that?
Said you got to buy the certified hardware. Then.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of different answers, but I think the core problem of people not reporting what's going on, like this, they're not going to get a bug report from me on this. I'm just going to either move on or I don't know what.
So this is one of the reasons, and it's a slight change of topic, but this is one of the reasons why we want that crash reporting information from people, because it's not just like, weirdness that happens on your display, but when shit crashes, we want to know about that so we can fix it. And we know there are plenty of people. I can sit here and berate you and encourage you to file a bug, but I know there are, for every one of you, there's 100 or 1,000 or maybe 100,000 people who will not file a bug, don't know how, didn't know it's even possible, right? But if under the covers, when something crashes, if we can, in a tasteful way, take that crash report and aggregate it with all the other crash reports that are similar, and we can analyze that and say, okay, we've got a problem, we need to fix this thing. We don't even ever have to interact with human beings out in the field,
which is how it should work.
Fix that code, right? But not everything is a crash, right? And what you're experiencing is not necessarily a crash, and that's the problem. Is not everything can be captured and fixed via crash reports.
Many more subtle defects. Yeah, exactly.
It's funny. It makes me think.
Poppy,
oh, go ahead.
Does the system mention when it sends some data to Canonical if you activated that?
Is it a log somewhere?
Tell you that it sent a bug report.
Before 1804, you may have seen, if you ever ran an Ubuntu system from about, I don't know, 1404 onwards.
Window, so you wanted to send,
right, you get punched in the face.
That
thing that punches you in the face, that thing is sending crash reports. But if you close the window, it doesn't do it. But if you hit the pre-launch, it does do it. And you can see them aggregated. If you go to errors.ubuntu.com,
but now with 1804, would it at least notify you that it realized there was a crash? And then it depends.
It depends, because in 1804, what we want to do is have a thing in the installer that you tick to say, just send them. And if it just sends them, then they come to us and we can analyze them and we can fix them.
So I disabled that during install. I disabled that during install. How can I activate that again?
You do the reverse of whatever you did to disable it.
No, I mean, it was during install. It must be in some config file.
Yeah, it is.
Probably it's just a one.
As a dirty American capitalist, what I would be willing to do is if I had like a studio hand here, I would be willing to pay him or her to do it all, to do that work, to spend their time doing that work. It's simply because this place has basically turned into a one-man shop over the last month or two, and so there's just no way I just functionally can't do it because I barely even see my kids anymore.
Right.
So,
yeah, if you had something like that, I mean, they could also be doing all the OS updates and making backups. And,
yeah,
I mean, like it would be totally different.
I think the egregious level 2 of the failure would be a lot lower. Like my like, oh my gosh factor. But anyways, this is my long.
Chris, don't think you can get away with the I don't see my kids anymore. That's not going to wash with me.
Oh really? I thought that would play well. I thought that would play well with you. I mean, come on.
He has no sympathy.
Sad, you don't get to see the kids.
I vaguely remember what mine looked like.
And that's a good day.
Well, this is my long way of saying I'm switching to elementary OS.
Sweet. Boom. Awesome.
You know how many?
Still gonna have NVIDIA problems.
So hey, actually though, I gotta say, data point for you. Take it for what you're with, because it's my just arbitrary observation. But so I did do some reading about this here problem because I'm having it on 2 systems, and I'm like, what the hell? These are my 2 favorite systems because they're the custom machines we built last year, and they're really nice. So I was reading around, and you know how many people said, well, if you want, because here's what actually happens. I swear to God, it starts with blaming NVIDIA. It devolves into bitching about how people came from GNOME. I swear to God, I saw this in several threads. And then it goes to, and then you know what the next thing is? Well, if you like GTK apps, you ought to try out Elementary OS because you get to experience the nice things about GTK without the GNOME 3 slowdowns. I saw that. I got to say, I saw that 4 times, I think. And I think I'm lowballing you on that. That came up. It came up on forums. It came up on Reddit. It came up in chats. So the word's spreading. So don't fuck it up, Dan.
May you have a nice time, and the NVIDIA RNG gods bless you.
I'm just worried you're going to screw this whole thing up. You got a good thing going. That's all. So just keep it going, Dan. Don't mess things up.
We're thinking about putting an Amazon search in.
Oh yeah. Oh, that would be so handy.
Yeah. Good.
That's great timing.
Generates revenue, mate. Whatever you might think, it generates revenue.
Good. I'm glad. All right, we got to get going. I got really distracted by the Zuckerberg thing, so I needed a good chat to get me out of it because I was in a bit of a Zuck funk. So I appreciate that, guys. All right. oh, let me start show like I used to do back in the day, so that way we can get some title suggestions, and then we're good to go. So chat room, please bang suggest as we go along. This is the Linux Unplugged program, and it's episode 244, and that Noah character, that fucker with the Wi-Fi issues, he'll be rolling around here in a moment.
Right, I'm going to disappear before he turns up.
Oh, no, don't go.
Duck away to the shadows.
No, remember what my children are like.
You can't go. No, she'll just fine. Well, thank you for stopping by. It was nice to chat with you.
See you later, guys.
Bye.
Goodbye, Bobby.
Bye, Alan.
All right. Well, I feel like maybe. Do you need to refill a beverage or anything before we start? Are you good? Because like we have like a moment of zen before this thing kicks off, and then it doesn't stop. So
I think I'm good.
I got like half a bevy. I think I can make it. I think I maybe should go to the ladies' room.
Oh yeah.
I really enjoyed that debate, by the way. It was very passionate, but the respect on both sides was great.
So, Ionic, I have to step away just for 1 sec, but I'll be back. Do you want to tell the good folks about Linux.io? This could be our pre-show topic if you want to chat a little bit about Linux. Is it linuxserver.io?
It is, yeah.
Well, we could chat about it now if you want. I'll be right back, or we can do it a little bit later. It's up to you.
Now is good because it's.
All right, why don't you start, and I'll sneak away and be right back.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi there.
Somebody told me my audio was bad. I don't know. Is that better?
It is actually.
Just like echo.
Oh yeah, dogs. Well, wait a minute. Okay, I'm back. So was that riveting? Was there riveting discussion while I was gone? Did it work?
There was absolutely nothing.
There was supposed to be.
I didn't know what to do.
That's all right. I know it's harder than it sounds, isn't it? It is. That's all right. Did
Talk
Simon?
about yourself.
Did
Go.
Simon join us? Where's Simon? Oh, there's Simon. He's up there in the lobby. Well, why is
The
is
lobby.
Son of a beesh. So, Dan, let's talk. Let's see. Okay. Let's talk about. Let's see. I'm moving things around because I think Simon's joining us too. So,
are we going to talk about something computery?
well, I think we should talk about something elementary, my dear Dan. Perhaps
I might know a thing or two about that.
we could talk a little about next generation elementary apps. Let's talk about next generation elementary apps. What do you say? You feel like you want,
yeah.
You want to talk about next?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. And then
Do it early.
let's okay, yeah. All right. Well, let's say how about right after the ting. So it'll be right after the first ad. So that's pretty much like in the next bit. And then we'll get started. Then Simon,
I'm down. I'm here.
there's
I'm ready for it.
And then we had the Quigley proposal, which was on Phoronix. Last minute show editions, ladies and gentlemen, and then we'll get this show on the road. Red Hat's dropping Python 2. Nobody cares. NVIDIA 39618 is in beta. People are desperate. Red Hat 7.5. Where did that Quigley proposal go? Did I not bookmark the Quigley proposal? Where is that? Does anybody have a link to the Quigley proposal? I thought I bookmarked that. Wes.
Hey, I don't manage the bookmarks.
The problem is there's so many damn shows. That's really what the problem is. Here we go. Here we go. I found it.
See, it was all.
This prominent Ubuntu community member. This son of a bitch here. This guy. He's just a real bastard, apparently. Oh, I had a question for you, Wes, and we could scratch this. I had that breakdown of how containers work in Chrome OS, Android containers.
Oh, yeah.
How would you feel about reading through that? Is that worth us covering in the show, or should we park that? I don't...
Well, let's look.
Take a little look-ski there, and let me know what you think. Wouldn't it be cool if you could open and close tabs for me over here? Somebody needs to come up with Remote Fox. Remote Fox. Somebody needs to come up with that.
I'll be the puppet master.
Hello, Simon. Thank you for joining us. We're just actually getting late and get started because, well, Mark Zuckerberg, actually, but also Popey. Actually, we can blame Popey for that, so...
Hello.
Thank you for making it. How's your connection? Are you a little? Is your connection spotty? Say something for me there.
I'm on my phone right now, although I'm on a really strong Wi-Fi connection.
All right, yeah, it's stable. It's stabled out. Yep. All right. Unlike the price of Bitcoin, boom. So what do you think of that? What do you think? Is that too thick? Should we punt?
I mean, it is a little thick.
All right, I'm gonna say punt. Okay. I'm gonna say punt.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
It's a little too thick, I think. All right.
Yeah, there's a lot of text here, and just...
well, it is just a lot. You know, it's just
it's a lot of container detail.
Yeah, and it's a lot of Google. All right, here we go. All right, guys, stand by. This is Linux Unplugged, 2 and it begins in a 3 and a 2 skis. Mouse cursor, can't find my mouse cursor.
Need one.
Don't find, there it is, found my mouse cursor. Okay. This is Linux Unplugged, episode 244. Welcome to Linux Unplugged, your weekly Linux talk show that's sitting in front of so many Linux rigs, I'm starting to lose track. My name is Chris.
My name is Wes.
Hello, Wes. That's a little bit of a behind-the-scenes joke, I suppose.
It sure is.
But I'll tell you what, Wes. Everything we have to talk about is going to be in front of the scenes this
week. Out in the open.
Wes and I are going to be out in the open coming up really soon. We'll tell you about where you can come hang out with us and perhaps watch a live taping of this very show. ZFS on Linux has a bit of a ButterFS bug. We'll tell you what's going on, and no, it's not actually that bad. And Steam machines are perhaps not so dead. We kind of got down on the Steam machines last week, so we got to follow up on that. NVIDIA is taking away your cookies, and there's a new tool out that, let's just say it's going to make your stuff look better. It's going to make your stuff look better. The stuff you back up, off the web is going to look better with this. I'm not going to say any more than that because the copyright lawyers may be listening right now, but we'll move on. Then later on in the show, we have a new segment called Plasma Corner, which changed a little bit before the show started, but we'll talk about Plasma Vault, which is a really sweet Plasma applet that gives you a front end to creating encrypted vaults and some new features that are coming to Plasma Vault really soon that I think you're going to love. And then we'll discuss, I think, the only dock you should be using if you should so choose to do so on the Plasma desktop. Now, I'm not saying you
big
should.
Words.
I'm not saying you should, but I found a dock, replaced my Plasma panel with it, and I'm loving it. I'll tell you about that. And then we'll talk a little bit about Falcon, a cross-platform Qt web browser. That not bad. It's not bad. So how about that, Wes?
That is a full show.
That's some things.
Let's get into it.
So let's not go any further without bringing in our virtual lug time appropriate greetings, Mumble Room. Hello. Oh, jeez. Hi guys. It's good to be connected with all of you. Thanks for being here. I want to just start the show out with a plug skis for Linux Fest Northwest 2018, which will be April 28th through the 29th this year. And Wes and I will be there, as well as many others from the Jupiter Broadcasting crew, including Noah and Alan Jude and Angela and others. We'll be doing some live shows from there. We'll have a booth. We'll have some swag. We'll be chatting with people. We'll be drinking beers and hanging out and doing all the things you do when you're in Bellingham. So join us there, Linux Fest Northwest. You can find out more at linuxfestnorthwest.org. Just a little bit left. I think just a little bit of time left, but I think not so many rooms left. So that's why I camp in the parking lot in my RV. Linux Fest Northwest 2018. Go check it out, linuxfestnorthwest.org. It looks like it's already the biggest Linux Fest this year. I mean, this year's already the biggest. You know what I mean? It's the biggest one yet because they've sold out of all the things. And we'd love to see you there and hang out with us. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
I'm looking forward to it.
We may just try, I don't know, we may just try to do like a weekend edition of this show and do it live there at the fest. That'd be a lot of fun. So stay tuned for that, linuxfest.org if you want to go. And I may try to make it down to Southeast Linux Fest this year too, so may see you down there as well. There's other events coming up, but I think Linux Fest Northwest is one of the best, and Bellingham is a ton of fun. Just before the show, Wes and I were talking about how much we're looking forward to just going back to Bellingham. It's just a great place to hang out.
It's a wonderful place.
It's a college town. There's a lot of different breweries there. There's just a lot going on. It's a cute, quintessential Pacific Northwest place. All right, so now let's talk about destroying your data. Now that that's out of the way, you know me. I'm a pretty big fan of the ZFS. But you knew this day was coming. You knew a reckoning was in the works. And let's be honest, you still rolled the dice.
I've never installed GNU/Linux.
Okay, well, now not all of us have rolled the dice, but there is a disappearing files issue on ZFS on Linux right now on certain distributions. And I want to do a breakdown just so you can be aware of what's going on. The ZFS team is already well aware of it. But if you are on ZFS version 0.77 on, say, like CentOS, you should absolutely seriously consider downgrading to 7.6, or if by the time you're listening to this, 7.8 is available, upgrade. Gentoo is also affected. Ubuntu and Debian users are not affected because they are on older versions of ZFS. Ubuntu specifically is on version 0.75. But it's a regression that's been introduced in ZFS 0.77 on some Linux systems. It's sort of complicated, but it's kind of a combination issue, as a lot of times these problems are. It's a combination of a change that was made in GNU Core Utils in the way that CP works, and a patch that was made to ZFS, and the two things collided. So I talked to Alan Jude last night, and he says that he went through this whole thing, and he's been kind of been following this from day one. The team's been working on this. They're already working on the patch. He says they found part of the problem is based on a change to Core Utils, but it doesn't go to and that's why some people can reproduce the problem and some people couldn't. So you had to have a certain version of ZFS and you had to have a certain version of Core Utils. The problem is after a recent ZOL commit, when there are too many hash collisions, there is a return out of space error that comes back, and the copy stops. Now, a lot of times, what will happen is there is you won't see this because files are getting hashed and randomly copied over, or there is a hash table that grows as you copy files, and so it all kind of works out. But in the version of Core Utils that CentOS is using, there is a hard limit that was accidentally introduced with a recent patch to ZFS. They limited the attempts to expand the ZAP, which is the, I asked Alan, what the hell, Alan, is a ZAP? It's the ZFS Attributes Processor. It's basically, yeah.
Well, of course, Chris.
Yeah. So the ZAP is a ZFS Attributes Processor that's basically a key store value. Yeah, okay? And it's how directories are stored in ZFS. And this bug that was introduced limited the attempts to expand the ZAP to 2, which is not enough. And so that means 2 attempts. And so when you're copying thousands of files, after a couple of attempts, it would just say, oh, can't do it anymore, and it would just start dropping the files, essentially. And so the ZFS team, Richard Yao, is part of this, is working on the fixes. We've dropped everything. We have a dozen people around the world who are working on this. We have a fix. We're kind of narrowing in on the exact circumstance because you had to have a certain version of Core Utils. You had to have a certain version of ZFS on Linux. So it's and you had to be doing a certain kind of copy of new files. This didn't impact existing files. And it like, some people had to test, like, does it matter if I'm in a mirror? Does it matter if I'm in a RAID? Whatever. Like, all this different testing had to happen. But you can watch, we'll have a link in the show notes. You can watch them work through this over the process of days as they narrow it down. And they've, I asked Alan, like, what triggered this upstream change in ZFS that accidentally triggered this ZAP limit? And he says, well, they were actually just trying to make some changes to how it all worked on a case-insensitive file system.
Yeah, optimizing for a totally different case.
Yeah, and then that's what caused all of this. And it really shows you what a house of cards all of this is. So the moral of the story is, if you're on Gentoo or CentOS or Scientific Linux or Red Hat Enterprise Linux, you need to either be on ZFS 7.6 or ZFS 7.8, and you won't have this issue. So that's my breakdown of it. Unfortunately, there's really no other coverage of this, so I can't link you to like a Phoronix post or anything like that. This is it. We had to do the original reporting on this for you, but all of the information, including a better description and quotes from Alan Jude, are in the show notes. Excuse me. If this impacts you, if you're using this in production, just go to linuxunplug.com/244 for that information.
I mean, it says a lot that this is the first thing of this scale we've seen for a long time with our handy dandy friends ZFS.
The other thing that was really fascinating is because all of this is on GitHub, so all of the GitHub utilities are immediately put into play. Like they're finding the exact commits, like they have the code highlighted, they're linking everybody to it.
It is fascinating to watch.
Yeah, everybody's on the same page. So you can say a lot of things about GitHub and about open source projects being on a commercial platform, you know, the Git company themselves. But boy, was that useful, tracking this thing down. You could really see how the team was just busting through this at a breakneck pace, figuring it out. And then to really see Richard Yao, just to mention to Richard Yao, who is really just tackling this thing. He's just being a real leader in this situation, and he's going to the Hacker News and Reddit comment threads, and he's answering sysadmins questions that are in there saying, so this is my scenario. Do I need to worry about this? And he's specifically addressing their exact questions while he's working around the clock to help people, to help the team get the patch together. So
it's impressive.
It's unfortunate, and it shows you that even things like CFS are not infallible. And of course, Alan had to get a dig in there that it only affects Linux.
Of course.
You're welcome, Alan. I made that into the show. Anyway, so if you're running ZFS on Linux, you need to know about that. We wanted to let you know, just a little bit of heads up here on the Unplugged program. And we got links to everything in the show notes if you want to see the whole thing or where the exact, I'm showing it on the screen right now, that exact, right there, that's it.
Oh, don't do it, no.
I know. That's it. Now everybody's been infected, Wes. No! Oh, no! Oh, wait, it doesn't work like that at all. But you know what does work like that? An idea like Ting. That's right, linux.ting.com. Go there and get $25 off a Ting device or $25 in service credit. That'll probably pay for more than your first month. I got that deal because I brought a device over to Ting and they were offering it, and I was just some Joe customer at the time. This is going to make me sound old, but I brought over one of those old Evo 4Gs. You know, the ones that had, what was it? WiMAX.
WiMAX, yeah.
And I was like, I had no use for this thing. So I brought that over to Ting, and they're like, all right, well, you know what? We'll give you $25 in service credit. I'm like, wait, what, really? Like, yeah, just put it on that device and see what you think for a month. And, you know, if you like, I'm like, a month? All right. At the end of the month, I hadn't even used all $25. And I was like, oh, I get it.
I get it now.
And you can too. Linux.ting.com. It's smarter than unlimited. If you use less, you pay less. $6 a month for your line. Then your minutes, your messages, and your megabytes. Whatever you use, that's what you pay. And they have a nationwide network, GSM and CDMA, no contracts, no early termination fees. That's what I love about Ting. And you're in control all of the time, from the control panel to the great customer service, or if you want to use CDMA or GSM. And because they support both networks, you probably want to check their BYOD page. They probably support a device you already have, and then you can really save some money. But if you don't want to use an old device, you want to get something new, they got a sale going right now on those Moto devices, like 3 or 4 different Moto devices that are really nice. So go check those out because those are great value, and it's no contract, and you're just paying for what you use. Linux.ting.com. You go there to support the show. You get the $25 in either service credit or off a hardware device, which that's a great deal, and then you're good to go. You start going and you just see, you know what? This is a totally different way to do mobile. You'll see it. And it's like you got the veil has been lifted. You're woke all of a sudden. You're staying woke over at Ting. They ought to take that. They stay woke at Ting. Linux.ting.com. A big thank you to Ting for sponsoring the Unplugged program. And go check it out because it's really, it's a totally different way to do mobile. It's a better way to do mobile. If they had to hit the reset button today, that's how they do it. Linux.ting.com.
My millennials, stay woke.
So go check it out. All right, so Mr. Daniel Foray, as he is one to do, joins us here on the show, which we always love having him. And this week, he talks about something that's near and dear to my heart. Because you've often, if you've listened to this show or Linux Action News, you may have heard Joe say, Chris, you ought to just use XFCE. Oh, you having some plasma problems? I feel bad for you, son. Oh, GNOME's getting a little weird on you? I feel bad for you, son. You ought to just use XFCE. And I'll sit here and go, Joe, I don't want to use the damn XFCE. I'd rather go back to the 90s. So this is a conversation that happens all the time. And part of my reluctance to go to i3, which is great, or XFCE, which is fantastic, but my personal reluctance, it's this dumb thing of somebody I think that's unique to somebody that's probably my age or around my age, and that it's that When I started using computers, you could only run one application at a time. My first computer got hooked up to a television. I put cartridges in my first computer, and it could do one thing at a time. It was delightful when I could make the damn thing beep. So I've just been through a lot of iterations of the shit pile that we call modern technology, and I've been through a lot of promises about the next great thing that's just around the corner that's going to finally make the computer better and finally make it user-friendly. And I've been listening to that promise since I could read, since I could take in information. I am just at a point in my life where I'm done with computers being below a certain standard. And it doesn't mean I'm a Mac user or I'm some Windows 10 power user writing PowerShell scripts. It just simply means I've been through iterations of this entire industry now. And I've gotten to a point where I just expect a certain standard of living on my desktop environment. And it's not that I couldn't make do and go camping in XFCE and be totally fine with a weekend in i3. It's simply, if I'm going to build a home and I'm going to live there, I got a certain standard. I want Ethernet in my walls. I want clean power. I want to have wiring where I expect it. I want stuff to be the way I want it, and I want things to be where I want them because it's where I live. And it's just XFCE, i3, these other desktop environments are simply unappealing to me in that regard. It's nothing about the excellence of the projects, the functionality that they serve for other individuals. It has no statement on your use of them. It's simply my esoteric preferences as somebody who has gone through the life experiences that I have. So I am really at a point where if it's not of a certain standard that's my own personal standard, I'm not interested. And that's why I'm on Plasma right now. That's why I stayed on GNOME 3 for a really long time. And it's why I follow the Elementary project with keen interest. And they really kind of hit my note this week when they started talking about improving the look of the applications and start talking about building the next generation of applications for their Linux desktop. And this is something that they've been working on for over 7 years, and they've introduced multiple generations. And it's really something to see. So I'm going to put a link in the show notes to go to encourage you to go look at the screenshots, because visually it's, again, one of these posts where you could just really see the progress visually, but there's so much more than just the visual aspect of it. So Dan is joining us, and I loved this post, Dan, because you start out with Generation 1, which is the first version of an Elementary OS, like the best shot for a new team, and they were pretty good. I think maybe that's where some of the early criticism about design copying came from. But GTK2 was limited, and you could only get so far. But now, in 2018, we're in a totally different place.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think is kind of central to the story that I wanted to present in this post is that when we first started out, we didn't really know how to be a good code shop, and we actually went to the Ubuntu Developer Summit, and we wanted to pitch some of our apps for being included in Ubuntu, and one of the Unity developers kind of sat us down and gave us a talk, and he was like, hey, listen, you guys are bad at coding. And he told us all the things we were doing wrong and how to step up our game. And we came back from that, and we picked a standard language. We created code style guides. We started doing code reviews. We started getting really serious about the quality of the code that goes into our applications, and not just what goes on top as far as design.
Yeah, and boy, do I appreciate that as an end user. That's why I did this whole setup. I think this is the solution to the problem where I've seen these promises over and over again, and then we do these hard resets, or we have these big focus changes. And what is clear now, especially as we're getting close to the next release of Elementary OS, is you guys have really been on a trajectory where I'd say it's refining focus over and over again. And you could definitely see it in Gen 2 of your applications. Like, they're solid looking. They're GTK3 by Freya. Is that true?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So you give us some hints where things are going. So where do we go in Gen 2 to Gen 3? Like, what kind of is the next thing that we might see in future versions of Elementary OS that may not yet be released? Where is this going?
So one of the big things that happened is we came out with App Center, right?
Yeah.
And when we did that, a focus for us was making sure we had a lot of automated tests in place so that when developers submit their applications, we could run them through these tests and get their apps published very quickly. And when we did that, we kind of set a set of standards for them as far as naming. We forced developers to use the reverse domain name notation so that, for example, their binaries and the names of files like .desktop files or AppStream data files all follow this RDNN notation where it's like com GitHub .username application.
So what's the benefit there? That sounds good, but what's the benefit?
So the point of this is to ensure that we don't have any sort of naming conflicts, not only when developers are publishing their applications on Elementary OS, but also when we're talking about upstreams, repackaging.
Yeah, I bet.
And this is something that the GNOME team has embraced as well, and it's pretty common on Android and other platforms like that. So we're going to a point where not only are we enforcing this for all of our third-party applications, but we want to, practice what we tell other people to do. And so all of our first-party applications are going to be using RDNN from now on as well.
You guys are legitimately thinking about things that I think some distributions have never even given a moment's thought to there. And you would only be there if you had gone through this journey.
Yeah, it's a level of polish and care that's just refreshing
to see.
Name
conflict? I don't think I've ever even heard any Linux distribution ever talk about being concerned. I mean, I've heard package maintainers, I've heard software developers, but that's awesome, and it's great. I didn't realize that it had some upstream traction too. Is this so? Can you expand on that a bit? So you're working with GNOME, or it's kind of the same thing, or what's that about?
I think it's more of just kind of a de facto standard that everybody's moving towards as we realize that we want to have this world eventually where we're shipping not just like a few thousand applications, but where we have millions of applications, right? And in order to get to that world with the constraints of file-based package managing, we have to make sure that these files do not conflict with each other.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're thinking about it. That's for sure. The hype train, it's successful, this one. I mean, I'm just thinking.
I think you're caught right along.
I got a machine that's destined for this. I think that's the case. Well, Dan, is there anything else we should mention? I mean, I'm just curious. I'm just noticing there's no beta links in here, no download links. You guys never roll that way. How does that work? Do you have like a group of people you beta test with? I mean, I don't disagree with the approach. It's unique. I think it actually helps build the hype, but how do you walk that line and still make sure you get enough hands-on to make sure there's not some egregious bug in there?
Well, real quick, I do want to plug that there's a bunch of other stuff that we talk about that people can check out in the article, which you said will be in the show notes. But I want to make a point that our continuous integration suite that we've developed for App Center, we're now making it available as something that you can run through Travis CI on your own projects. So anybody can use this full testing suite that Elementary is working on, even if you're not planning to publish an App Center.
Thank you for mentioning that. That's great. Yeah, no kidding. That's totally where we were just talking about Travis CI. That's so cool. Yeah, all right. So that's good. That's definitely great. So check that out. The link, like you said, is in the show notes. And now I want to just kind of, just from a big picture perspective, like how do you as a project, how do you feel like, yep, this stuff is ready to go? You must have a lot of people besides yourself testing this, maybe a small group, 10 people, 1,000 people. Like, how does the beta process work for Elementary OS?
Yeah, so right now we're kind of in a pre-release state where we just have some builds that we're running internally, and we just publish those on our Slack channel, which has like a little over 100 people in it, I think, right now.
Okay.
And so we've got a small group of just developers testing. We have projects up on GitHub, which you can actually see. It's a public project where we're tracking regressions and things like that. And so once we get through those tests and we feel like we've handled all the regressions we know about, then we'll go to public beta, and that'll be an open public beta anybody can download. And then we'll figure out from there like how much we have left to do before we can do final release.
I'm excited to hear that. Well, neat. Well, thank you for coming on and explaining this, and I like the fact that you guys. So it's called Flight Check. Is that what it's called?
So that's the name of the component. The full application is called Houston. And
nice. Love it.
And so this part we're calling it Houston CI.
Okay. That's great. And you're making it available for anybody if they want to integrate into their projects. That's so cool.
Yeah, and this is all regular open source standard stuff. Like this checks, validates metadata for .desktop files and app data files, and it like does a lot of good open source citizen stuff. And we're looking to integrate tests that other platforms use, like the Debian maintainers have a good set of tests that they use for packages. So we really want to make sure this is all like open source standard stuff.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. And it's using computers for what they're good at, which
Right.
I'm always a fan of. It's like, might as well if you can. If you can have some of this stuff tested for you automatically, even if it doesn't replace actual testing, it's just another data point, and it's pretty valuable. It's good to hear. That's good to hear. All right, well, last week, we may have reported too soon that Steam machines were dead, although I'm actually not sure it's not the case, in my personal opinion. But Valve took to the web after last week's episode and said, we've noticed that what started out as a routine cleanup of our Steam store, where we removed all links to Steam machines, all references to Steam machines and SteamOS, and buried them, we noticed that some of you interpreted that incorrectly. I may have... I may have editorialized it a little bit.
Read a little bit, yeah.
I may have a little bit of editorializing. But while it's true Steam machines aren't exactly flying off the shelves, read, we haven't sold any for the last couple of months, our reasons for striving towards a competitive and open gaming platform haven't significantly changed. Read, we're working on fundamentals. We've taken a lot of feedback and have been heads down on addressing the shortcomings we've observed. Read, Linux was a bit of a dumpster fire.
Taking a nap, for sure.
And we think an important part of that effort is our ongoing investment in making Vulkan a competitive and well-supported graphics API, as well as making sure it has first-class support on Linux platforms. I think that's great. Completely think that's great.
Yeah,
I think that is true. And they say now, here's the part that got my attention. Tell me what you think about this, Wes. You ready for this one? They go on about how we're continuing to invest significant resources in Vulkan ecosystem and stuff, but then they just throw this in as one sentence. It's not even a complete sentence. They say, we also have other Linux initiatives in the pipe that we're not quite ready to talk about yet. What does that mean?
What now?
We have other Linux initiatives in the pipe. Not the pipeline, the pipe.
The pipe, yep.
That we're not quite ready to talk
Maybe
about
they're
yet.
stuck in the pipe. That's why they can't talk about them. They need to get them out of the pipe.
I think it's VR on Linux.
That's what it seems like, right? I mean, what else? What else
Right?
could it be?
Does anybody else in the mumble room have speculation on what might be in Valve's pipe? What could be in Valve's pipe that's regarding Linux? That's not SteamOS. It's not Vulkan. It's not the Steam client. It's not the Steam controller.
Steam TV.
Maybe. Steam Cody? I would
there we
so be down for that. If SteamOS could be a Cody, basically with SteamOS, Steam integration, that would be such a product for me. Half Pipe 3. All right, so nobody's got any ideas. All right, you guys are no good.
What a mystery.
It is a bit of a mystery. What would Valve have in their pipe? So let us know. Linux Action, no. So let us know, linuxunplugged.com/contact, and send us in your ideas for what might be in Valve's pipe. I don't know. I'm thinking it's VR or AR. And sort of as a related note, screw you 32-bit users, NVIDIA is giving you the middle finger this time and is ending support for 32-bit OSs.
No!
It's not just Linux users. It's everybody. So it's equal screwing.
The times they are a-changing.
Oh, yeah, they're going to halt GeForce GPU driver support at the end of April, meaning users will lose access to new GeForce Experience features and game updates. But more importantly, and you got a little more runway on this one, NVIDIA will end security updates January 2019, so you can continue to use your 32-bit OS with a GeForce card at least until 2019 and get security updates. And then, really, in theory, you could keep running it probably for a lot longer. It's just there's going to be security things that they won't fix. Like, I don't know, new versions of Spectre. I'm not sure what that would be. I guess. I mean, what kind of security? Actually, I take that back. Now that I think about TechSnap, there's been a few stories where NVIDIA drivers have been involved, including even running CryptoWare on the NVIDIA GPU.
Oh, no.
Yeah, there's all kinds of things. In fact, Wes and I just talked about, what was it, Branch? What was that new one? There's a new one we just literally talked about, and of course now we're spacing on it. But Wes and I were just talking about all kinds of speculative execution attacks on the TechSnap program. That'll be coming out later this week, techsnap.systems/363, I think it was. If you want,
I think you're right.
Yeah. And speculative execution, turns out, is going to be a fun bag for lots of people. And we talk about some of the new exploits in that episode. So let's now talk about DigitalOcean, our sponsor for this week's episode of the Unplugged program. DigitalOcean is what I use for a lot of our backend infrastructure. We're recording portions of the show using DigitalOcean. We're streaming portions of the show using DigitalOcean. In fact, the bot that manages our titles is using DigitalOcean,
It
Wes.
sure is. Talk about dog food.
Yeah, we really do. And it's because it's great infrastructure. You can deploy in seconds, and it's super fast. You can develop locally and deploy globally. They have, I think it's now 12 data centers. I used to say 8, but now I believe it is a baker's dozen. Is that right? I'm not actually sure.
Let's go with it. That's probably close enough.
It's a dozen data centers, and that's really what matters. So just don't get down in the semantics, Wes. Jeez, I just hate it when you do that. DigitalOcean. Go to do.co/unplugged to get a limited 60 days, but yet it's kind of great. $100 credit. I can't believe I even get to say that. You have to go to that URL, do.co/unplugged. That arms your web browser with the knowledge of the $100 deal. Once you create a new account, you get the $100 deal. I think you might have to have like a legit credit card on file, although I don't know if that's actually true. But you do get the $100 credit if you go to the do.co/unplugged and it's a new account. You create the account, and then you can really play around because really, my favorite system is 3 cents an hour. And so when you think about $100, I mean, you could really try out like their new high CPU droplet. You could be like Wes Payne and be spinning up VPN systems.
All the time.
What's the last?
Crazy.
Do you remember the last droplet you created?
It was got to be sometime earlier this week.
I know. There's like, we'll be sitting here discussing like an idea for the TechSnap show, and Wes will be like, well, let's go spin up a droplet and try that real quick. It's like, okay, that's a great idea. And that's what I love about it, because it's so fast. They have a really easy to use web interface, a super straightforward, well-documented API, and then just tons of well-constructed documentation on top of that to make it easy for beginners or experts to go all the way with DigitalOcean. You can deploy a single like bare Linux rig or an entire application stack. They have tutorials. They have a lot of community meetups, surprisingly. That's a big thing I never actually have mentioned about DigitalOcean is there is a large meetup community that if you want to talk to other people that are using DigitalOcean and how they're getting the most out of it, there is a community that DigitalOcean is actively encouraging and in a lot of cases like giving swag to give away and stuff like that. Seattle has some.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, it's a big
fantastic
thing. Yeah, it's pretty cool. There's all kinds of neat things about DigitalOcean. We only get to touch on parts of them, like the fact that they provide backend infrastructure for tons of the open source projects that we talk about here on this very show, and of course the fact that they're supporting for a long time now this crazy Linux podcast that's barely structured that just talks about frickin' Linux things. I mean, that's just kind of great in itself. Anyways, go to do.co/unplugged to get the $100 credit and then play around. Try out their flexible droplets where you can mix and match resources. It's pretty cool. do.co/unplugged, and a big thank you to DigitalOcean for sponsoring this here humble Linux program. So, prominent Ubuntu community developer, Mr. Simon Quigley, has joined us in the Mumble Room to talk about his proposal to dramatically change the release cycle of Ubuntu's early builds, like the alphas and the betas. So, Mr. Simon, Mr. Prominent Ubuntu Developer Community, thank you for joining us on the show today, sir. Actually, very much thank you for making the time. I do appreciate it. But what is the Quigley proposal? Because Phoronix tells me it's going to fundamentally change the way beta releases work for Ubuntu, and I'm intrigued.
So right now, the way that milestones work in Ubuntu, we have 2 alpha releases, and we have 2 beta releases. So the Alpha 1 and the Alpha 2, the first, Alpha 1 comes a couple months after after the release cycle opens up. Then a month after that typically is Alpha 2, and then there's a Beta 1 and then a final beta. And then from there we get release candidates and that sort of thing and actually go into the release. So with this proposal, as of right now, Ubuntu Desktop and Ubuntu Server they do not participate in the first two alphas and the first beta.
Yeah, I've noticed this.
Yeah, so basically they've been, for the past couple release cycles, if not longer, they've been opt-in, milestones. So the goal here is, to just evaluate to see, if these are still necessary, to see, if these are still something that we need. So looking at the past release cycle, we didn't have Alpha 1 and Alpha 2 because of the Spectre Meltdown stuff. Beta 1, Ubuntu had some issues. Other flavors had a release, but otherwise, I looked at this, I looked at what happened during this release cycle, and I sort of analyzed to see what the benefit would be to taking these optional milestones away, because, like I said, it's been optional, and flavors really drive these. So
yeah.
I know. So Ubuntu Chillin, Ubuntu Mate usually comes in around beta 1, that sort of thing. So the goal here would be to, just get rid of these milestones completely, and instead of having a release cycle where we have set, release times, we would have like a coordinated testing. Now, the advantages of this are with the milestone releases, it's basically, you could pick any day in a month, and you could pick a daily out of that month span of dailies, the ISO, and you could label that beta 1, and people would install that, but that's an image that's frozen in time, and that's a blessed image. But with the nature of the Ubuntu release cycle, things go fast enough that the next day you could have fixes, you could have whatever else coming in that ISO, so if you install beta 1 on a system, you just update your system, and there's really no advantage to having a frozen in time ISO. So the main goal of this would be to also make things a little bit faster and make our automation a little bit better, because at the moment, after I made this proposal, someone followed up on the mailing list and said that Ubuntu Desktop and Server, while they don't participate in these initial milestones, they do have some automated testing. So they have some testing where it just does some smoke tests that the flavors would usually do manually. So it's just overall just looking at the different milestones that we do and making sure that what we do and what we spend our time on is useful. Because really, one other point that I sort of found interesting was, and that someone brought up on the mailing list, is that you get a lot of press around these blessed images that you call Alpha 1 or Alpha 2, and that's because a lot of the time with these ISOs, you have announcements like, for example, Ubuntu Mate has been doing a lot lately. So they roll in their beta 1 announcement. So while they're releasing this image, they also announce something else that they're doing. While really, these are in the dailies that you could grab any day of the month. They probably, a lot of this stuff has probably landed a month before. Well, not a month, but probably a couple weeks before. And it's just now with the beta 1 announcement going in there. So the goal of the testing weeks would also be to sort of coordinate everything together. And while you're not releasing something, it would also be an opportunity for flavors to announce changes that they're making in the dailies without actually having to release something. So
I like this idea of the test week, or test weeks, I suppose. That's pretty clever, and I think it's sort of reminiscent of like a hack fest in a way, but it's protracted a little bit. It's not quite as intense, and it sort of elicits community participation and gives people a time to focus. And it's also, in its very nature, kind of a reminder: hey, the next release is pretty close. This is kind of your last chance to make sure this thing's working right. I like that idea, Simon. And Michael Ireland liked it too, apparently, because he wrote it up and tossed it up on Phoronix.
Seems like there's some decent reception so far.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, Simon, thank you for coming on and explaining it in your own words, because I really like it. When I hear your idea, and the other thing I like what you're doing about it is you're just kind of rethinking this process. I think it's one of those things that is just sort of easy. It's a decision that's been made, and let's just move on and just get the job done. And you're kind of revisiting something that's been assumed for a long time and going, well, why are we doing it this way? What if we did it this way? And I think that's really good. I think that's super healthy for a project that's been around for a while.
Right, and that was sort of the point of it, just to sort of see, if we can improve anything. One other thing that I do want to mention is that, I don't think I mentioned before, is that it's the goal, because these are optional milestones, the goal would be for, in my proposal, the goal would be for desktop and server and everybody to participate in these testing weeks. So you would see, we would improve our automated testing, but we would also have a wide variety of flavors participating, rather than just a few people who feel like they have something to release. They like 2 or 3 people release one blessed image, and then that's just put out there. No, the goal would be for everybody to participate, so we could all collaborate and we could all work together on this.
Yep, I like that idea too. Especially when you got these different flavors now that are getting more and more prominent.
Yeah.
And more larger user bases. So their feedback on some of this would be...
Get some critical mass and
yes,
get some bugs fixed.
Exactly. I have a question for you, Wes. What is your process? I mean, theoretically, I'm not saying that Wes Payne, the actual individual, does this, but Wes Payne, the presenter, theorizing in his personal opinion, what is your process for backing up movies to, like, say, a storage medium? Do you do this, and do you have a process?
I haven't done it for a long time.
Really?
Back in the day, I'd certainly, ripped some DVDs, archived them, if you would say.
Do you now more rely on the public backup?
Yeah, or, streaming services.
Yeah, that's what I primarily do, too. But I have picked up a few... I'll tell you, there's a thing about the kids, is they don't have, like, a high preference. Like, right now, they're young enough where they just don't care.
They just need something.
Yeah.
Kind of colorful and fun.
Family members are passing down a lot of DVDs to us, and we're picking up some Blu-rays at garage sale. Ange is always good at picking up, like, she's part of these. Have you heard of these Buy Nothing groups?
No.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's a big thing on Facebook, especially with the people that are really kind of thrifty. It's a big thing in the rural towns that are
sure save some money.
Yeah. People
use some resources.
Yeah, so instead of throwing something out that's still perfectly good, you put it up on a Facebook group and say, "Hey, I got this thing," and people, "Hey, I got this thing," all the time, right? All the time.
So like a distributed goodwill.
Yeah, I want to get rid of all my young kid stuff that we've had in the garage for the last 10 years. Would somebody like to just come grab this? It's distributed goodwill. It's P2P goodwill. And so you get DVDs, Blu-rays, you get all VHS, all kinds of crap.
Sure, right? Like here's a bunch of kids' movies.
Mm-hmm.
Have at it.
And my kids love all of it. And, we just went on a spring break trip recently. I took the kids down to Seaside, Oregon, and Lady Jupes, loaded up Lady Jupes. And I am ridiculously proud of this. And it's not even all of that elegant, but I am super proud of the fact that I can disconnect Lady Jupes from shore power is what they call it. Which would be like utility from like the city, right? You power. And Lady Jupes can go into battery mode, and this transition does not interrupt the TVs or the LAN.
Oh, that's lovely.
The LAN, the TVs, and the Plex
just hot swapping and boom.
They all stay up.
Not a blink.
I can fire up our onboard generator, and it can kick in. And so technically this is kind of a big deal. The whole house will switch from DC to AC.
Wow.
And the TVs,
just
the Plex
works.
server, the LAN, the internet connection all stay up. So I'm pretty proud of this.
Yeah.
And it's just so awesome because we have these built-in screens in Lady Jupes, these flat screens. And so when you're going down the road, the kids can like chill on the bed, like in the master bedroom, and they can like just with quote-unquote master bedroom, it's a queen-size bed. They can chill on the bed and watch TV and do whatever while we're going down the road.
They're not distracting you while you're driving.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. And so I wanted to get some of the stuff that we had collected recently into my Plex server.
Right, you already have a system. You don't need to be hauling DVDs all around.
Side note, funny enough, Plex took a total shit on me for an unrelated reason because of an Android update, and so I ended up just using Kodi. But that's a side note. But I needed to encode a lot of this stuff. I use MakeMKV and other tools to sort of encode this stuff. But I needed a way to get it onto my system. But I needed a way to encode it. And I'm a long-time Handbrake user. Really like Handbrake because really underneath the scenes it's using FFmpeg with just a bunch of sane presets and stuff like that. And they're using like good codecs like X264 and stuff. And so this week they've released Handbrake 1.1.0, which has a total UI overhaul. A redesigned main window with consistency that's just, I don't know, I just think it looks a lot better, I'll say. And I like the way they preview the video image. They've redone the way you select presets. No more old, like, kludgy drawer system. It's an updated user interface, updated icons, high DPI support. They've added newer presets for Vimeo and YouTube and some TV playback boxes. But there's been some nice actual specific Linux improvements too. They've added an option to configure a low disk space warning level, which this is nice because I've actually, with this version, we've moved over encoding the BSD Now program to Handbrake, and Angela's doing this on Handbrake, and so it's nice to have this because she has
that's fantastic.
Yeah, she has like a bin that she sends these to, and when that fills up, she needs to know, and so this gives her a warning now. It's just like the timing. It's a small thing, but the timing was just aces. They also added Intel QuickSync video encoding support. It's experimental. It requires a very specific version of the Intel driver, so I haven't tried this yet, but that would be great.
Really nice. Yeah,
that could be really
if
great.
It's meeting your quality, nice and fast.
Yeah, and also check just like being like just talk about being. That's what I'm trying to say. Talk about being ahead of the curve here. Official support for 1804.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks like they just as we're covering it, they just uploaded 1.1.0 to the PPA.
No.
Yeah, wasn't there right earlier in the show?
Sweet.
Go get your hands on it right now. Check it out.
Sweet. You know what, Wes? That's officially like some Linux Unplugged breaking news right there. Like we just broke a little Handbrake news on the Unplugged program.
This is CNN Breaking News.
Unplugged breaking news.
Yeah, come on, get
Unplugged
that right.
breaking news. Yeah, and then there's been some updates for something called Windows.
Not familiar with it, but
No, I think
we'll find out later.
No, I don't. I think that's what I look outside. And Mac, which is something that McDonald's makes. But they have some improvements too, but they look like bullshit stuff that I wouldn't want to use anyways. So Handbrake, new release, link in the show notes, super great. And I used that. So once I got them, so this is Chris's quick, if I could just summarize my long story I gave you earlier. My quick tip is use the right tool for the job. So if it's a Blu-ray and a DVD, I recommend Make MKV. Bring those onto your hard drive, and then people have asked me a lot, should I just keep that MKV or should I re-encode it as a MP4 file or something like an MKV file with a H.265 for video? You know, having tested a lot of it, X264 at a high quality bit rate, if you do 2-pass encoding, I would challenge you to really see the difference between that and what you rip directly off the Blu-ray using Make MKV. And there is a substantial file size difference. Substantial. I would tell you to focus more on what you're doing with the audio. Are you doing pass-through audio? Are you re-encoding that audio? Are you accidentally mixing down multi-channel to stereo? Pay attention to that, my friends, because the number one question you guys are sending me is, should I encode it or not encode it? And you're not even asking me about the audio stuff. Having tested this back, from doing like, I'm just taking the Blu-ray, which is like an AVC H.264 encoded file. Keep in mind, having taken that Blu-ray and looked at just raw Blu-ray versions versus re-encoded using Handbrake, I cannot tell the difference, and I am particularly picky about that kind of stuff. And I'm looking in like water scenes where there's a lot of motion and fire. I'm talking like, really paying attention to specific scenes where the encoding should break down, and it looks good to me. So I give a really, really hearty recommendation to Handbrake and the presets that they have been including, because they've really tuned those presets with this new release, and the stuff just looks so great. If you do the 1080p high quality, it will be double pass. It will be good audio. It's really what I think a professional video encoder would recommend.
Yeah. My MB setup, it's not the beefiest, so if I can get it to a format that's like widely recognized already and then just direct play, that's all the better too.
Exactly. That's another nice thing about this is it'll let you target certain types of devices. So if you knew you're going to be playing it back on a Roku, for example, you could target that device, you could play it on MB, it'll do direct pass-through, nothing's getting double encoded, it's the best quality possible.
Boom.
That stuff really does make a difference. So anyways, that hopefully just answers a bunch of questions that come into the show, and it's a really handy tool, and it's something that we're now using on a weekly basis for one of our Jupiter Broadcasting programs too, the BSD Now show.
Yeah, congrats on the new release.
Yeah,
great software.
Yeah, and apparently a new release, breaking news. All right, well, let's take a moment and talk about something new coming from Linux Academy. They have a huge batch of updates in the month of April. linuxacademy.com/unplugged. Go there to sign up for a free 7-day trial and support the show. It's an advanced training tool that gives you all of the knowledge you need for Linux and the things built on top of Linux. A full-featured training library. They have hands-on, scenario-based labs that they spin up on demand, that you log in over SSH to a Linux box, and you start working on the real applications and technologies. You write the real config files. You see the real results. They have self-paced, in-depth video courses on every Linux, cloud, and DevOps topic. And now, in the month of April, they are launching more than 70 new courses. They've got new challenges and learning activities. Wow.
Wow. That's that's a lot of new stuff.
Yeah. They're refreshing old content as well. They're looking at all kinds of the thing about Linux Academy is they're always looking at all kinds of ways to update the old stuff too. So I often talk about the new content they're adding, but I think just as valuable is they're going back and retouching.
You always know you can go there, you'll find stuff that's up to date and
that's nice. Some refreshers across the courseware, 50 new cloud assessment courses, hands-on learning activities, and new challenges, as well as they have a new real-time grading platform so you can get feedback as you're working on the lab. You don't have to wait till the end. That's
great.
That's amazing, really. That's so
Fast
cool.
feedback when you're learning, easy resources. It's just...
Yeah, and a 7-day free trial when you go to linuxacademy.com/unplugged. They have study tools as well that you can download and listen to and use offline if you need to go offline for a little bit, and a community stacked full of Jupiter Broadcasting members. linuxacademy.com/unplugged. That's linuxacademy.com/unplugged for that free 7-day trial and to support this here podcast. So I want to talk about Plasma Vault. This is our official KDE corner, if you will. And Plasma Vault is an applet and a set of services and back-end services that create encrypted vaults that are easily accessible from the Plasma desktop. Now, I do have a disclaimer that I have to make. Before this episode started, about 10 minutes, I updated to resolve another issue I was having on Plasma. And after I did that update, I lost access to my desktop and I lost access to being able to add Plasma widgets. All I have is a black screen. And you can see my mouse cursor.
That's all you need for a nice desktop.
I can't right-click. I can't add widgets. So
minimal.
I was going to tell you about this. This is a really cool application, but at this point, I actually would not be able to access the vaults I'm about to get to. So just so you guys are aware, there may be some issues that could...
While you're laughing, the hackers are dropping malware into your system.
No, I don't think I was not hacked. It was an update. And It was my bad. And I've been told it's related to my NVIDIA binary driver.
No, say it ain't so.
It appears to be so. The Plasma applet, though, called Plasma Vault, is pretty cool. It doesn't really use anything that you couldn't bust out on the command line and solve yourself. It can do an overlay encryption file system, or it can do a whole volume. And it's this UI that you add. It can be a little icon down in your dock, or it could be, or actually, I'm using a dock right now, but it could be your regular Plasma desktop, or it could be a new widget on your desktop. So you click on the widget, you can say create new vault. When you do that, you give the vault a name. So like in this case, it might be, like LUP Secrets or something like that.
Oh, so secret.
And you can choose your encryption. I'm going to do IncFS. I'll do CryFS. CryFS, which is kind of neat. When you hit next in their wizard, it comes up with a security notice. It says CryFS, CRYFS. Encrypts your files so you can safely store them anywhere. It works well together with cloud services like Dropbox or iCloud or OneDrive and others. Unlike some other file system overlay solutions, it does not expose a directory structure or the number of files nor the size through the encrypted data format. But one important thing to note is that while CryFS is considered safe, there has been no independent security audit which confirms this. So they give you that disclaimer.
Yeah, that's nice.
I think that.
And you know what you're getting yourself into.
You put your super secret secure password in there, so farts, and then you confirm that, farts. Then next, I guess next is not farts. Type it in again because that's what I do, farts. Hit next, and then you tell it where you actually want it to store the volume.
Nice.
So in this case, the encrypted data location will be /home/chrisf/.local, so it's a hidden directory, /share/plasma-vault/lupsecrets.enc. So that'll be the actual path of my encrypted volume. It'll be in a hidden directory in the .local folder. And then it's pretty nested down. It's all the way, it's down to a Plasma Vault folder. And it mounts now to /home, /chrisf/vaults. So it's going to make a vaults folder in my home directory. And then in there, it will make a folder called LUP secrets. And anything I put in that folder called LUP secrets will actually go in this encrypted volume.
Sweet.
Yep. So I do next, and I say go ahead and create. Oh, this is something else that's kind of cool. So it allows you to choose your cipher, but one of the other things it'll let you do.
Bless you.
Excuse me. One of the other things it will do is it will allow you to limit the activities, which are a Plasma desktop function, that this vault is even available. The people have been weed whacking all day long, so this
is everywhere.
But it'll allow you to limit the activities, which is a Plasma desktop function that this vault is even available to. I don't want to do that, so I'm not going to choose that option, so I just choose create. Oh my gosh.
I'm going to put your nose in a vault.
Yeah. Now I can just choose from my menu right here which vault I want to mount. I click that. When I say open in my file manager, it asks... When I say open in my file manager, it asks for the password. I put it in, and it opens the vault. It's now mounted as a regular folder. I can use it. I could leave it mounted my entire session.
I'm impressed. Like with this, a few extra steps, and it feels a lot more integrated than some hacky encrypted folder that I have a bash script somewhere for.
And I also like and appreciate the fact that they're not inventing their own encryption.
Yeah, right. It's not all hand-rolled. It's using, just reliable primitives, sticking it together in a reasonable way with a lot of disclaimers.
Yes, I do appreciate that too.
Yeah.
So Plasma Vaults is nice. It's you could use IncFS, you can use CryFS, but here's the other great thing about it. This is coming from Ivan's blog here. He's talking about adding a new functionality to Plasma Vaults that I think is great. And it's really in light of Meltdown Inspector. He says, we've recently seen that even CPUs can sometimes be used as attack vectors. It's common for the web browser to be, and obviously through social engineering, for a user to also be used to gain remote access to the system. For this reason, starting with the next Plasma release, if you have extremely sensitive data, you can mark a vault as offline only. This means that networking will be shut down as soon as you open the offline-only vault, so that any potential remote access is inhibited.
Nice. I mean, not not complete, but hey, one more step. That's real handy.
I like that a lot. I mean, if you're using Network Manager to manage your network connections anyways, and it's going to interface with that and shut down your network connection, so you're essentially air-gapped for a limited time. You're right. It doesn't prevent things that have been loaded on your system while you've been connected to the network. It's more of an immediate solution, but it's a one more peace of mind solution. And I like that integration, and that's where the Plasma Desktop often comes in, is that total suite integration, right, where your vault mounting mechanism can actually stop the networking, and it's not through some sort of hack, but through some sort of elegant communication system.
It feels like a cohesive designed desktop.
Yeah. So anyways, that's what's coming down the pipe for vaults. I wanted to also mention this week LatteDoc, which I have started using on one of my Plasma systems. I had this other bug recently with the Plasma Desktop where my panel stopped updating. Is that, do you think, a fair description, Wes?
Yeah, definitely.
You've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, it like freezes in time. The individual like applets like Dropbox and TeamViewer and whatnot still work. And I think even the Bitcoin price thing still worked. But the clock would stop, like the seconds wouldn't tick anymore. And more importantly, the taskbar would just be frozen at whatever I was at when it locked up. So if I had, say, Console and Kate and Firefox open, they would always show as open regardless, and say that I opened Chrome and that was the only app I had open, it would never be in the task manager. It was kind of a little challenging when I was live on air and trying to switch between applications. And so I heard that an update would come down the road and let me fix it, but I thought in the meantime, until that update arrives, maybe I'll try LatteDoc. I gotta say, I'm not Mr. Doc. I don't really appreciate docs. I think they're usually just trying to be a Mac ripoff, and I tend to eschew from them. This, however, did it right, because one of the default layouts is called Plasma. And it's essentially a plasma bar, but implemented as a dock, and it's done well. And it has a lot of functionality that I do appreciate from docks, like intelligent hiding, being able to change it being connected to the left side of my screen or the right side of my screen or the bottom of my screen, or just the one icon for applications that are running or for the launcher. I don't need to have an icon for the launcher and the running task. Those kinds of things. It does what I like in a dock, while not feeling like it's ripping off the Mac, and it's native Plasma stuff here. It
looks clean.
It's using
well
Plasma
integrated.
technology. Yeah, it's very well integrated,
smooth.
It is, and I think I'm going to put it on all of my Plasma desktops slowly. It's pretty much available, and in all of the repos too. This is not a new application. Producer Michael's come on the show and told us about this before, but it's all based on Plasma Framework, so it provides an elegant and intuitive experience, and I completely agree with their description there. And you can add regular plasmoids to it. It animates or doesn't animate depending on what you want. It's got a really easy to understand configuration, and you can, I don't know, it's just nice. And after having some troubles with the standard Plasma panel, I thought maybe it'd be worth mentioning.
This has been my favorite part of your Plasma journey, because you're finding all the apps I didn't even know I needed and hadn't found in the KDE world, and now I know. So thank you.
And then one more before we just get out of here. I see though that Mr. Noah Chelaya has joined us, so I may ask him about his Plasma experience here in a moment. But one more little plug skis before we get out of here. You might remember, I think it was like Quapzilla. Was that the name of it? Quapzilla?
Oh, that sounds familiar.
An old cute web browser. Well, it was renamed back in 2017 to Falcon. There you go, Falcon, and it's it's flying like an eagle now. It's a cross-platform cute web browser, and it's now called Falcon. And it's my experimental. I want something that's not Firefox. Like I want to be logged into a different Google account. I just want it on a different process or whatever. I want to be able to just Alt-Tab really easy to a different set of sessions. That's where I'm trying it out right now. And I've been looking for things that are Qt-based for the Plasma desktop. So if you have any Falcon tips, linuxunplugged.com/contact, let me know. But Mr. Noah Chelaya, are you there? Are you live, sir? And are you still on the Plasma desktop?
I am, and I am.
Have you tried it out on any NVIDIA systems recently?
I have, actually. Our brand new XPS Edit Bay.
No.
Is running Plasma.
Really? Do you want to tell people about that? Do you want to? Have you talked
spill
about
the
that?
beans.
You guys should tell people.
Yeah, we can spill. Honestly, the only reason I didn't spill it earlier was I didn't know. It's your popsicle stand. I didn't know how you wanted to tell the.
This is a little Linux Fest Northwest tease, because behind this actually maybe gives people a better idea of what we go through behind the scenes to prepare for Linux Fest Northwest. You should tell people about this new machine.
Well, yeah. So, I think there's probably a public perception that all I do is complain about wireless on 16.4, but that's not the truth. The truth is I actually do a lot of things. I actually fight for the Linux desktop a lot, and so one of the things that had came up was we were talking about what we're going to do for Linux Fest, and I was like, listen, we can do a lot of different things for Linux Fest as long as we're all doing them on Linux. And I said, well, here's the thing: we've had some production issues in the past, so how can we make sure that we have an absolute rock solid machine that's going to work perfectly the entire time as if it was a broadcast grade device like that you would buy from a company? I said, that's not a problem. What we have to do is we have to buy a brand new top of the line Dell XPS performance system with the 8-core i7 in it and dedicated graphics and what the heck was that? And a dedicated capture device that's PCI, so it's on the bus. So we have 4 individual 1080p 60 frame per second capture device that's inside of this box. We built it, and I really like that system because a week before I had started editing the Ask Noah show, and I actually purchased another one of these systems to do all of the editing on it, and so it's the Dell XPS desktop, not the laptop. It's the desktop version, but it's just a powerhouse of a machine. And that currently is loaded with KDE Neon, and of course has the dedicated NVIDIA graphics card in it.
So I am fascinated by the amount of hardware that is going into this year's Linux Fest Northwest, but I think it's also interesting that we're doing a full Plasma deployment. You know what? It's one of these things, Noah, where by the time Linux Fest lands, 1804 will have been released. You know what I mean? Like we have to do all of this pre-1804.
Right.
And I actually think with the recent problems that I've had, I think maybe Kubuntu 1804 might be the perfect spot for me because it's LTS Plasma Desktop, LTS Qt framework, and LTS Ubuntu. So it's like it's like the trifecta for me. What do you think about? But it's too soon to try that. It's too soon to try that on these systems we're going to use in production, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. The other thing is, and maybe this is a bad way to go about this, but my plan up until this point and continues to be really, I'm just hanging out on KDE Neon until it burns me. And then once I get burned or when something happens, then maybe I'll reevaluate that. But like, I was thinking about this, when 1804 comes out, as a responsible person in the media, I feel like it's our job to evaluate this stuff. Try it. Yeah.
All the flavors, really. I want to try as many as I can.
But at the same time, like, I still have to be able to get work done, and Neon has been so rock solid good to me. I've had zero, not a couple of things that I could work, zero problems whatsoever with it, that it's just going to be very difficult for me to wipe it off my computer. Maybe I can partition it out and live in, the LTS for a little bit and, just to play with it and stuff. But at this point, my plan was to just blow it completely away and go back to 1804. No, I'm having a really hard time. If I'm being honest with myself and you, I'm having a hard time convincing myself to do that.
We've never really had an experiment go like this before. I mean, not like this deep. Right? I mean, we're like, hey, let's try this, and then it just changes the way we work now. I was just saying on the pre-show, I've had
the way it started.
on the pre-show. I was just saying on the pre-show, I've had 2 out of 6 systems start to develop issues, which isn't a bad batting average, but it's enough where like I'm at yellow alert right now, and I'm like, oh, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? But other than it's not too bad, and those both are my 2 NVIDIA rigs, so it's kind of interesting. Those are the 2 systems having problems. That's why I was asking you if you tried it on NVIDIA.
Yeah, just one. And to be fair, both of those systems. One of those doesn't have the Linux Fest rig. Actually, just got here yesterday, or the day before. And so it's sitting apart because we're putting hardware in it. The editing machine, it's been running 2-3 weeks with NVIDIA. However, I've only used that machine like, an hour or 2 a week.
Yeah.
So
and that's what I find. If I reboot or even just log out and log back in, the problem tends to go away. The locked panel problem. This time I've lost my desktop and all of my widgets and the ability to add new widgets. But that tends to actually get resolved too. So let's change gears. Do you want to mention what you're doing in LA and why you're going to LA soon, or do you want to just keep that a behind the scenes thing?
No, sure. No, I think it's cool. So one of the things that we had talked about for Linux Fest Northwest is when you guys come out to the conference, we want to change the dynamic that exists, because a lot of times we'll be in quote unquote show mode, and then people are either afraid to approach the booth or they approach the booth at the wrong time.
We're too busy,
to set something up, and it creates an unfriendly dynamic, and so we want to change that. And so what we're looking at doing is we're trying to create a cool exhibit. So it's not just the place that we're setting up and broadcasting. There's going to be cool things for you to look at, cool things for you to see, cool things for you to play with. And basically, we're going through and we're like, how can we get the best of everything and make it something kind of cool to see? And one of the things that we wanted to do from the audio side is have all digital audio, so that there is no buzz, there is no hum, there's nothing like that. It's all digital. So I started looking for a board that we could use that was all digital. And
which is not cheap. Once you say those words, you're in a certain price category right there.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah, usually you're in a couple grand, each. And if anybody is in the broadcast industry or in the voiceover industry, you guys may know the name Joe Cipriano. And Joe grew up on the air. He grew up and he wrote a book about how from the time he was 12 years old, he was in a radio station doing on-air stuff. And eventually turned it into a voiceover career, and he's one of the most, next to Don LaFontaine, probably one of the most successful voiceover actors out there. If you've listened to Fox News, or I'm sorry, Fox, The Simpsons or anything like that, he does all of the promos for CBS and Fox and stuff like that. And heard about what we were doing, heard about what we the budget constraint that I'm working under and stuff like that. And I just reached out to him. I said, I know you have this board. I know that you're looking to transition out of it and he's upgrading his system. And I said, could we work out a decent price? And I don't know if I want to go into the pricing, but he gave me an insane deal. So insane that I am flying out to LA at the end of this week to go pick the board up from his studio.
Wow.
And then I'm going to go straight from his studio. I board next flight the very next day to Seattle. I'm going to bring it there, and then we have like a week to set it up and try it and play with it and make sure everything's going to work. But we're going to be using Joe Cipriano's board. And my thing was simple. If it's good enough for CBS, it's probably good enough for us.
I hope so.
Yeah, otherwise we're doing something wrong.
If the Tiffany Network says it's good, then we should be able to do a live stream.
Only work on open source.
Yeah, the whole thing, so it's a real process to do this, but it is if you have a small budget or you have a large budget. I think this is what my takeaway is. And it's not really this show's legacy, but a big legacy of LAS was us struggling with, can we do our passion on Linux? And our passion was live production of shows. And now the question more is like, what range do we want to do this at? Like, at what grade? Like, if we wanted to spend $700, we could do this. And if we want to go full Noah, we could spend money that we probably shouldn't mention on this and do this on Linux. The range, there's a range available to us now, Noah. You know what I mean? Like,
the best two examples of that, go-to examples of that I can think of are going to be this year at Linux Fest Northwest. I think is safe to say probably the most elaborate setup that we've ever done. In fact, I would go as far as to say this. I'll put my name on it and say that I challenge you to find another conference, not just a Linux conference, but any conference that isn't exhibiting media stuff specifically. So NAB would be out, stuff like that. But anything that's a conference that's outside of the media industry that is going to have as elaborate of a setup as we're going to have. So we've got that this year.
Oh, yeah.
But then you compare that to what we did at System 76 a couple of years ago, where we literally didn't show up with a single piece of equipment. I mean, we showed up and we just hodgepodged it together. People were bringing in parts from their house and stuff like that, and we made a production system out of it. And that just shows the flexibility, the scalability of Linux. The fact that I can just take a box, get all the software and necessary stuff up, open the Google Docs, put all the stream keys in, boom, we're on the air.
Yeah. I think it's going to be pretty cool. I can't wait to start playing with this stuff. And, that just, if you follow the timeline there, Noah's going to be out here damn near way before Linux Fest Northwest, because we're going to be testing this stuff. We're going to be working with this stuff. It's our passion, and it's so cool to be able to do this under Linux now. And to be able to go to a Linux event now for years. Like, this isn't our first year. This is not our first rodeo anymore. Like, we've been doing these events, covering them from beginning to end, full spectrum, using Linux. And now this is like the most professional implementation. Like, we're not going to be throwing together systems.
Finally getting good at it.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. It's fun to be at this position.
Oh,
so
I'm really excited.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool, and crazy Noah flying all over the place to do it. I don't even know what that guy's up to. That's just nuts. If I actually think our setup at the Linux Fest Northwest booth might make me just want to do shows from there from now on.
Yeah, we'll just do it there all the time. That's it.
I'm done. I don't need any of that. I'm sick of it. We'll just do all our shows from there from now on. Anyways, links to everything we talked about today, linuxunplugged.com/ what is this, 244? Yep, 244. And if you come over on Tuesdays to the jblive.tv stream, you can catch this show. We start at 2 p.m. Pacific. Actually, really, the live show usually kicks off around 1:30 Pacific. All of that is converted to your local time at jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar. You come for the Unplugged program, you hang out with us. We have some pre-show, we have the main show, we have the post-show, and then just a little bit after that, it's that Crazy Ask Noah program.
Yeah.
And he's taking your live calls, he's answering your questions, and he's talking about all that kind of stuff.
Just hang out with Noah.
It's a Linux sandwich. I really think you'd probably like it. So, and plus you got the chat room going, there's the Mumble room you can participate in, you can join our virtual lug.
You see, any simple model of human nature is going to be wrong.
And you can debate things like human nature, I guess. That's if you like. Anyways, all of that is happening at jblive.tv every single Tuesday, and we'd love to have you there. You can get links to everything we talked about at linuxunplugged.com/244. Email us at linuxunplugged.com/contact. And that's all of like the meat and potatoes.
So much meat and potatoes.
Meat and potatoes is everything we need to cover. But I think that'll pretty much bring us to an end for at least our portion. The Ask Noah program will take over soon. But in the meantime, go check out the TechSnap program, techsnap.systems, where Wes and I are breaking down stories that are really kind of focused on the whole IT and sysadmin market. So it's like, if you got to live in that world, you need to know what's coming up. If you have systems you have to manage, or if you have systems you have to manage and that's not your primary day job, TechSnap program can be very valuable. TechSnap.systems. Go get a little more me and Wes.
Go join us.
Or at Wes Payne for his Twitter.
Do it.
I'm at Chris Elias. The network is at Jupiter Signal. We also have the subreddit, linuxunplugged.reddit.com and linuxunplugged.com. thanks so much for being here. See you right back here next Tuesday!
There it is.
The Unplugged program. Wrapping up 244. Feeling good. That was a long one. That went a little bit longer than I expected.
Out of control.
It's really your fault, Wes. You just don't ever shut up.
I know. I was egging you on all day.
And Dan comes in here, running his mouth. And hey, Citizen, I don't think he ever shut his mouth either. You guys, unbelievable.
Gotta get hyped.
Linux Hype
Linux
2018.
Hype. So let's see here.
Let's get some title hype.
We got title thing. No, what's coming up on the Ask Noah program, Broham? What's going on?
Holy cow. We are asking so many crazy flame clickbaity questions like, is Apple destroying the computer? We've got a really cool guest that is starting a business, and so we're going to talk with him about what's coming up in his business and the challenges that you face when you start a small business and how you can do that on Linux.
So
that's lovely.
Hey, did you officially change the intro tagline?
I did, yeah.
Can you give it? Do you mind giving me a read again? Because I know it's new, but I forgot what it was. I know the music's not going. I know. It's a big ask, but
hold on a second.
I liked it. It was like way simpler and less confusing.
You know what's great? You know what's great about this new system here?
What?
I have this touch screen, and as long as I turn it on, there we go.
Yeah, sure.
Look at that.
Oh.
I just pushed the button. And
All of a sudden we're doing like a show. Oh my gosh.
The show you've been asking for.
Hey, I thought this is the old. This is gonna get me flagged, dude. Wait, you gotta stop it. It's gonna get me flagged. You're gonna get me flagged, dude.
It can't get flagged.
Oh, okay, good.
It's custom written.
Good. All right, good.
Okay, all right. Yeah, because I don't know.
There we go.
Multispeed Technologies, the Ask Noah show starts right now. This is the show where we do all the things on Linux they said that couldn't be done.
Yeah!
And take your calls on how to do the same.
Damn, that's good, dude. That is good. I
better,
like
right?
that. I do like that. I like that
See, here's the
music
thing,
better. I like that slogan better. Because, your business tech questions didn't make any sense to me.
I know. And here's the problem, though. You didn't tell me that until New York. Do you remember we were having dinner?
Oh, really?
And we were down to eat. We were eating Indian food in the basement of the train station.
I do remember. Okay.
And you're like, what does that mean? I'm like, what does what mean? You said taking your tech questions and business in tech question. What does that mean? And then I explain it, and you're like, okay, well, once you explain it, it makes sense, but when you say it, it doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, well, we're 54 episodes in. Why am I just hearing about this now?
I know.
I'm
too nice.
From episode 1. I know.
You got to be stern from the start.
JBot
By the way, nice new rock music.
Yeah. Custom written.
It took 4.5 months and a lot of money, but
now you have it. It's perfect forever.
And 52 YouTube flags. Actually, no, it's double because there's a live stream. So, JB Titles is not working because JBot is written in Ruby and not Rust.
Oh yeah, should I guess I can.
We ought to talk about maybe soliciting a community project to rewriting JBot because JBot doesn't handle people going to jbtitles.com super well. I'm noticing. It's just it has a hard time. And I think it's just maybe because it's Ruby, but that's just maybe me being a Rust lover. I don't know. I'm all Rust.
You are all Rust.
I go to bed at night watching Rust YouTube videos. Yeah. Anyways, what are we gonna title this thing? Because I gotta get out of here so Noah can do a show. So we gotta come up with a title, guys. God, this is always harder than it should be. Too bad we don't have Popey in here cursing and yelling at people to give us a title, because that would be it'll be a lot better. Come on, JB Titles. Come on. I feel like the countdown has started, and I have to come up with a title. I mean,
if it's worth anything to you, I've got like 15 minutes. Yeah, we got.
No, I know. I'm just trying to build. The I gotta be the showman.
Sorry, Chris, I have to get.
I've got a big show.
Minutes, Chris.
Yeah,
we're down to 12 minutes.
I gotta set up. Actually, last week I don't think we gave the YouTube stream enough time because
really?
one of the two shows didn't on one of the channels, but I had a backup and I got it, but it's because that's how I roll.
Hey, Chris. Shall I come back next week?
You know what? Yeah, that'd be good. Also, do you have anything on your screen that you could read me for like 30 seconds? Because I think your connection's breaking up.
Yeah, we have built and maintained the largest collection of container images on the web.
Yeah, so that's fine now. I don't know what it was earlier, but there was I couldn't really address it while the show was recording because I'm not going to stop and edit the whole show just so that way we can have this conversation. But
yeah, that's fair enough.
Initially, during the pre-show, your connection was breaking up quite a bit, and so I was a little concerned that we may have a connection issue. However, now the connection seems fine. So whatever was happening earlier, and I don't know if it was on my end or your end, is resolved.
Well,
so
you had a pretty full show this week anyway, so I'll just come back next time.
Well, okay. So I'll carve out if you make the time for next week. I'll be sure to carve out the time for it. So we'll have a spot in the show specifically for it. So.
Oakley dokley.
All right, Mr. Badger, thank you again for making it. And what are you using for a mic right now? Do you have access to anything else, or it's okay?
This is the Rode NT10.
Jesus, fucking Christ! You got to be kidding me. How is that possible?
Or I could do my MacBook internal mic.
No, it's just you're telling me. Tell me again, because it sounded like you said that you had a Rode microphone that you're using right now, and you're telling me it sounds like this. I mean, it sounds.
Yeah, it's like 1 centimeter from my face hole.
All right, well, good enough. You know what? Next week I'll be recording you separately, and we'll be able to bring it up in post. So it should. I know it sounds fine. It could sound considerably better.
We want you to be
I can tell
and...
it could sound better, but it's okay. It's fine.
It could just be user error.
Maybe. I don't think so.
Wink, wink.
I don't think so.
It got awkward.
No, I'm just listening to it. I don't think that's what it is.
How would you not get that?
No, I get it. I get the joke. The joke was just not funny enough to distract me from the fact that I'm trying to troubleshoot why his audio doesn't sound as good as it should.
The joke was not funny enough to laugh. I get it.
Yeah. I mean, it was funny. It was good.
He's just a man with a problem.
I was troubleshooting at the moment.
Zone.
Yeah, so I didn't want to be distracted from my troubleshooting. Because I think you should be getting. You sound warbly, like you sound distorted a little bit. Like you should be getting more. You should be getting better clarity out of that microphone.
Try refreshing your network connection.
I don't know. Anyways, it's good enough, and we'll have you recorded individually on your own track next week. So
I'll make sure next week I'm on Ethernet, not Wi-Fi as well. So
yeah, that definitely can help. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, well, the other thing is inside of Mumble, if you go under the audio input tab, there's that little slider that goes from quality. If that's automatic and you're on Wi-Fi, it's gonna dump that thing, the bitrate way down to like 40.
Yes. So that's another thing to look at.
Yeah, that's going to kill the top end if that happens.
40 now. What should I be at?
Oh, okay. So 96 would be ideal, but anything above 64.
96. How's that? Is that better?
Is it live?
Yes.
It does sound better.
Yeah, I just changed it now. Is that better?
Yes.
That is better.
Yes, that is better.
Huzzah.
Okay. There we go.
Also, noise suppression will slightly muffle it.
Yeah.
If you've got that turned on.
So that sounds so
noise suppression is off.
Okay. I mean this is pretty passable, really. I'm pretty happy with this. So I think we're gonna be fine. This is gonna be fine. So good. I'm glad we looked at that.
Awesome.
Thank you, Noah. All right. Well, we still don't have a title.
The title has to be something about yours on Popey's little ding dong before the show.
Some of that will make it in, but not all. I didn't have the recorders going. Popey just jumped on me, but it's fine because he's right. So I just need something that was. So we talked about we began and end with Linux Fest, but that is a recipe to kill the downloads if you.
We don't need that.
Yeah. It's too bad.
KDE Conundrum.
It's like I totally get it. Like if people can't go, there is a built-in huge percentage that don't care. Well, I can't go to Linux Fest Northwest, so I don't really care. I get it. Yeah. But it's like, no, we're trying to make something for people who can't go. Like, we're making it for you.
It's for you. Yeah, then the people who go are like, well, I was there. I don't need to listen to this. And then no one listens.
The Plasma Corner was one thing that I thought of, but...
Plasma predicament.
What about putting
elementary?
What about putting Plasma in the corner? No.
Elementary, my dear Plasma?
Yeah. They're so punny. We've done so many punny like elementary things over the years.
Elementary physics, plasma.
I just can't quit plasma.
Docking on plasma.
I'm addicted. I guess just can't get
Okay,
enough of plasma.
this one's clickbaity, but what about plasma problems? Because it's illiterate.
Mm-hmm.
How about
Or
plasma
predicament,
probs?
or
Plasma probs.
I don't think I want to do plasma problems though.
Probs?
The ZFS thing is quite a hot topic now. That might do well for SEO.
No, are you still here? Yeah. So are you asking me something about the stream with that screenshot? Because I'm still live on all the things.
Yeah, no, I know. I do. That's why I didn't want to touch anything.
Yeah.
I was just asking if so. We did 3 minutes last week, I think.
Yeah, we should probably do a few more. So we should probably wrap it up now. All right, so we're gonna wrap up on the YouTubes and on the streams. Thank you guys for tuning in. Stick around though, because the Ask Noah show will be coming right back. So you can probably just stay there and it'll refresh soon. But we're gonna wrap.
do some updates. Wait a few.
I don't know. Yeah, do like a package refresh. I don't know. I'm not your boss.
Boom. I can schedule it weekly.
I ain't your damn keeper. You know what I'm saying, Wes? Like, why do they expect that from me?
I thought you said you'd be everyone's admin for free.
Oh, I think I did say that. But to be fair, I was pretty drunk.
Good point. Yep.
Yeah,
well, anyway, I have patches you need to apply for me, so get to work.
All right. Let's get out of here. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. If you're on the JB Lives and the YouTubes, they'll be coming back pretty soon.
I think that we should all make those businesses
Working on it,
fail.
Richard.
Yeah, jeez. Oh, my God.